Hello and welcome to Inside the Newsroom. I'm Joey Taylor. Inside the Newsroom is a show where we take a look at the important and trending stories happening in KELOLAND and bring in our newsroom staff members to talk about them. Now, these are the same stories you're seeing every day on air and on our website, KELOLAND.com. Let's get started. Now, we're starting with a trial we're seeing right now. 46-year-old Jubal Rattler is accused of causing the death of 39-year-old Doris Hyelk in downtown Sioux Falls last summer. He pleaded not guilty to second-degree murder, along with other charges. Dan Santella was in the courtroom yesterday for opening statements and has the details.
Surveillance video from this location in downtown Sioux Falls almost 8 months ago had jurors' attention today inside the Minnehaha County Courthouse. Today, the jury saw more than 2 hours of surveillance video from this angle focused on the space underneath the 8th Street Bridge. At the heart of the case is whether Jubal Rattler is criminally responsible for Doris Hyelk's death. In its opening statements, the prosecution described the fall as a, quote, headfirst dive, with counsel arguing for the, quote, unbiased nature of what a camera captures. For their part, the defense described the case as a, quote, tragic accident that was, nevertheless, quote, not a crime. The defense stated in its opening statements that all parties had been heavily drinking. The video shown today shows the evening of June 30th. On the video, individuals identified in court today as Rattler and Hyelk are shown laying on this retaining wall between the pathway to their left and the Big Sioux River to their right, with the 8th Street Bridge running above them. Shortly after the 9:30 p.m. timestamp, Rattler appears to shove Hyelk off the ledge. The movement was quick, and the suspect and defendant's bodies are somewhat darkened by the evening shadows. Notably, Hyelk was positioned on the edge of the retaining wall. She was not positioned in the middle of the ledge. The video does show Hyelk falling headfirst, but nearly as quickly as her fall began, it was over, and Hyelk was out of view, obscured by the curved retaining wall because of the camera's positioning. Her impact with the ground, therefore, was not visible on the video recording.
All right, and Dan joins us now. Dan, thank you so much for being here. First, talk to me about the atmosphere in court yesterday. Now, this story aired yesterday, so that's why we were saying today. But talk to me just about the atmosphere, because we can't bring a camera into court.
No, not unless we receive permission, and that's a rarity, certainly in our experience. So there was, a considerable amount of that surveillance footage played yesterday in court, right? And a lot of it, there was individuals just milling about, sitting on the retaining wall, laying down, or just laying under the bridge. And for a lot of it, there wasn't a lot happening. However, there was a 2-second clip that was of paramount importance, right? We knew from court papers that was going to happen at the 9:35 timestamp, right? So I knew it was coming then as we're watching. Counting down the minutes down, and I knew it could happen quite quickly. So I know once 35 is up on the timestamp for the milestone video surveillance footage, can't be looking at Instagram, can't be looking at my notebook, try not to blink even. And indeed, when it happened, it was quite quick. As I had said in the story, part of the area was obscured by shadows, so it was a little darker. And then while the video was good, it wasn't great. We're not talking about 4D high definition stuff, right?
Right.
So there is maybe some subtle pixelation and a little lagging at times. But you do see all of a sudden, like I said, what appears to be a shove from Rattler against Hyelk. You see her definitely, her body, I don't want to know if I want to say airborne, but it's it's off the ledge, falling. She does go head first. And then because of the camera angle, you don't see her body's actual impact with the ground. And I don't even know if this whole thing lasted even 2 seconds.
Okay.
It was just boom, done. But that was the most important thing we had yesterday in court. We did have the opening statements. Those are notable, and I touched on those. Court papers had said that Rattler shoved Hyelk. And then I think, while it's tough to see on the video exactly to what degree there was the actual physical shove, it appears there was a shove. She certainly, came off head first from that ledge, falling down to the pathway below. And so I think, not so much in question is, did he shove her or not? Really, is he criminally responsible for her death?
Right.
And that's at the heart of what the jury is going to be deciding. So it was all about those 2 seconds, if that, maybe even 1 second. It was almost in court, like, there it was.
Right.
It's blink and it's gone, almost. And then there it was. And then I remember after, she disappeared out of frame because she was on the ground, and then she was obscured by the camera angle with the retaining wall there. And then so immediately it was like, I have my notebook because, we don't have a camera in the courtroom, as you stated. It's taken down those notes. Okay. Appears to have shoved her. She fell. Yes, it was head first. She was also positioned on the edge of the retaining wall, so that's notable. It's not like she was dead in the center, and then she had to be shoved 3 feet or so. That wasn't the case. And then just taking all those notes right then for me, because I knew this was going to be a piece that we would have publishing, a couple hours later.
Yeah. Well, and so talk to me just about how we're going to follow this case, because obviously you're here talking to me. You're not in court again today. We have one of our digital reporters in court. So talk to me just about how we're going to kind of continue following this case.
Michael Dorn, our colleague, digital reporter, he's in there right now. I mean, I think not unlike the Farmer trial recently, we intend to cover it throughout its entirety, Someone will be back in court tomorrow. Might be Michael, might be me, might be another, but just monitoring it, keeping up with the developments. I think we'll want to hear from what medical authorities had to say about the injury suffered by Doris Hayalk in this case, and then the closing arguments, obviously whenever those come. And we just want to be on top of that, with the Minnehaha County Courthouse. And like I said, that might be Michael, that might be me, might be both of us, be another reporter.
Yeah.
Just making sure we're following that.
Perfect. Well, Dan, thank you so much for joining us. And folks, we're going to take a quick break, but when we come back, we're going to take a look at how the city is looking to use TIF at the new Smithfield site. Welcome back to Inside the Newsroom. The city of Sioux Falls is seeking to use tax increment financing, or TIF, at the new Smithfield site. Sydney Hoyer sat in on the Minnehaha County Commission meeting yesterday, where city officials explained how TIFs would help Smithfield and Sioux Falls residents.
In the next few years, Sioux Falls' longtime meat processing plant will relocate from its downtown location. When it does move to Foundation Park, the plant plans to operate its own wastewater facility.
By providing their own wastewater treatment plant and not having the city have to take on that capacity, it prevents taxpayers' future infrastructure and maintenance costs.
TIFs will help Smithfield to offset the cost of building the plant. The plan will be presented to city councilors for the first time in early March. It would allow Smithfield to receive reimbursement payments up to $90 million.
It would be at least around in the $150 million range for the investment. So the actual tax increment financing is not going to cover the entirety of the cost associated with the wastewater treatment plant.
Powers explained that a lot of the confusion around TIFs are misconceptions.
TIFs are not a tax break. The property owner and the company will pay their property taxes for the associated project. What the TIF allows in the creation of the TIF is that the incremental taxes that are generated by the project are used directly in the district to reimburse for eligible project costs.
TIFs would also help the city to develop and improve the old Smithfield site.
Helping to add tax base to the community, helping to add quality of life features to the community for that. And the tax increment financing district makes that possible for us to be able to do that.
And Sydney Hoyer joins us now. Sydney, thank you so much for joining us. First, talk to me just a little bit about the dynamic of this meeting, because I know it's a little different than when people think of a normal city or county commission meeting.
Yeah, so what you have here is these city officials are coming in and talking to county officials, which the county officials won't have to, approve this plan. They aren't super involved in this plan necessarily, but it's just kind of a way of keeping all of the officials in the area up to date on what could happen. And it also gave them all a chance to ask questions and kind of inquire about this project because it is a big, long process.
Well, and talk to me just a little bit about why we're seeing this now, the reason it's being brought up now, because we're not going to see this move construction for a few years, at least to the public. But I know there's a lot of things because it was just announced last week before-ish there.
Yeah, so this TIF plan would be a 20-year thing that would be in place pretty much. So this, if it's approved this year, it would last until 2046, which seems like, so much time when you think about that $90 million that would be reimbursed. It's kind of spread out over that time then. But by having that kind of go into place this year, that's good for when they want to start that construction because, of course, it's going to start costing money as soon as they want to start building that wastewater plant. So getting some of that money now would definitely be helping them out.
Perfect. And talk to me a little bit about those conversations and those questions that commissioners were asking of the city.
Yeah, I mean, they were curious about how much this wastewater plant might cost because that $90 million does not actually cover the whole amount as we heard. It's $150 million is what it will be in total. But it is super important to the public. And of course, all of the people on this council are also members of, just the public in Sioux Falls. And so to know that they aren't going to have to share a wastewater plant with this facility was probably kind of, refreshing to hear.
Perfect. And kind of final question here. If people want more information, where can they go?
Yeah, so they're going to be presenting this plan to the the Planning Commission for the first time that the public can kind of attend that and hear this whole plan. And that will be on March 4th. And so that's the first time the public can come because it's a public meeting. They'll be able to ask questions and just kind of hear about that whole process.
Perfect. Well, Sydney, thank you so much for joining us here on Inside the Newsroom and giving us a quick update. Folks, if you want to read more on Sydney's story, go to this QR code you see on your screen. You scan it. It's going to take you to KELOLAND.com where you can find Sydney's story. You can read more about what commissioners are saying, more about the projects, more about TIFs and kind of the confusing nature there. Again, scan this QR code and it's going to take you to KELOLAND.com. And still to come, we'll get a quick update on the 2026 South Dakota legislative session with our digital reporters. Don't go anywhere. You're watching Inside the Newsroom. Welcome back to Inside the Newsroom. We are now over halfway through the South Dakota legislative session. Many of our digital reporters have been digging into bills and resolutions, and I actually have 3 of our digital reporters with me. We are talking to Ray Yost, Marissa Brunkhorst, and Gracie Terrell. They join us with what they've been digging into. Ladies, thank you guys so much for joining me. Love having a big group of us here.
Yeah, it's fun.
We are going to start first with Gracie. Gracie, first, give us a quick update on what's going on in the Capitol right now.
So in the Capitol, my story yesterday was on Senator John Carly being missing from the Senate chambers. They did something that's called a call of the House, which is kind of rare, where they lock the Senate doors. They have the sergeant-at-arms go and look for that unexcused senator or representative, but this was in the Senate. So they were trying to find John Carly yesterday, and they were not able to, but as of this morning, he is in joint appropriation, so he has been found.
Perfect. Thank you so much for just a quick update there. Ray, I know you've been focusing on a resolution to help the monarch butterfly population. Don't know why I can't say butterfly today. Talk to me about that.
Well, it was a resolution basically that endorses or encourages practices that, probably mean more milkweed because that's central to monarchs. They lay eggs there, they feed off of it. And monarchs are important because they're pollinators and they help flowers and crops and other things. So it's not binding, the resolution that was passed in this House committee and moves on, but it does encourage those farming practices and ranching practices that will benefit monarchs.
Perfect. And Marissa, I know you've been tracking Senate Bill 164. What is the latest with that? And that's the CDL truck driver legislation we're seeing.
Yeah, well, it just passed through the House committee, the House Transportation Committee. Kathy Howard has made a few amendments to the bill. She's a senator. She's a prime sponsor of that bill. Now it heads to the House floor.
Perfect. And ladies, just quickly, you guys have kind of been digging into the session pretty much since it started. What are maybe just some tips or tricks, or where can people go to really see your guys' work? Whoever wants to answer.
I'll just say, check our website. Really, that's a compilation of all the work that's been done by the digital team. It's also a compilation of work that's been done by our broadcast reporters and Digital Plus. So, that's a good place to start, and it can direct you to, when the reminders of when the newscasts are, when Digital Plus does some of its specific program, in session, those kinds of things. So that's where I would start.
Yeah, and how's it been covering the legislative session? I know, Gracie, you were actually in Pierre a few weeks ago.
Yeah, we've all been to Pierre.
Yeah.
But it was, it's been really interesting, especially going to the Capitol, kind of seeing how it's done. We usually are all sat at our desks and watching virtually the committee hearings. So being in person was, interesting, kind of navigating around the Capitol, seeing all of the, legislators that we've kind of just seen on our screens, walking around, maybe grabbing an interview with them. But I thought it was, it's been an interesting session, pretty, maybe some mild bills from a few years ago, but I think they've, all been interesting talking points.
Perfect. Marissa, anything else you want to add about covering the session in 2026?
Oh, I think for me, sometimes I have to be reminded of how things work. Like, I'll ask all the time, like, what is it? Is this going to go to the governor now, or is this going to the Senate? Like, for me, it's like every day is like a new elementary government class for me. But very enjoyable. I've learned a lot. Yeah.
Perfect. Well, ladies, thank you so much for joining us. And what I'm going to do is exactly what Ray is telling you to do. This is a QR code. If you scan this on your screens right now, it's going to take you to KELOLAND.com. From there, you can find Ray, Gracie, Marissa, the rest of our digital team, and our broadcast team's coverage of South Dakota legislative news. Again, scan that QR code and it'll take you right there. And don't go anywhere, because after the break, we're going to take a field trip to the zoo. Welcome back to Inside the Newsroom. Camp Leif Erikson has added a new experience this summer. Jordan DeSmit tells us how it will help campers learn more about nature by taking a quick trip across Sioux Falls.
There are no campers at Leif Erikson yet, but when they arrive this summer, some of them will get to take a trip out to the Sioux Falls Zoo and Aquarium's Great Plains Zoo campus.
But it's a more interactive field trip too. They're going to get to see a lot more, spend the whole day really getting to see everything at the zoo, whereas a lot of our other field trips have been maybe shorter or quicker. This is going to be a full day field trip for these age groups, and it's going to be awesome.
The zoo will welcome campers ages 6 through 9.
It's an age of kid that gets really excited about going to the zoo and seeing animals in person for the first time, seeing wild animals like tigers and hippos and rhinos.
There may be children that otherwise may not have that opportunity to come to their local zoo. I'm sure there's also many that do come here quite often, but the opportunity to experience it maybe with some new friends that were made and formed as friendships during the camp program is just one way for us to weave ourselves into the fabric of our community again.
And for staff at Leif Erikson, they hope the partnership can strengthen their nature-based education.
We have a lot of animals here at camp, but it's really just our native stuff. So getting to expand that as much as possible is fantastic.
All right, Jordan joins us now. Jordan, thank you so much for being here on Inside the Newsroom. First, super important question. Your favorite animal at the zoo?
I grew up loving rhinos. I was kind of obsessed with rhinoceroses. I don't know if that's the plural of it, but yes, I would say rhinos. Give me some rhinos.
Perfect. All right. Now going more into your story. First, how does this really shape and change Leif Erikson's field trips?
Yeah, I would say their big mission right now, especially as they're kind of transitioning into a new director in Kaylee Har, who you talked to there, or we heard from there. They really want to teach kids, give them a more interactive experience, and teach them more about outdoors, nature, and nature conservation. And they felt like the zoo was a good way to do that.
Perfect. And we heard, like you mentioned, both from staff at Leif Erikson and the zoo, obviously no campers yet. What was the atmosphere like when you were putting this story together, especially since there weren't a bunch of kids running around? Did they seem excited for the kids?
Oh, they were really excited. It was something that, I called James Oppenheimer, who you saw in the story, and he's like, yep, what time works for you? He was really excited to talk about it. Same with the zoo. So it's something that they're excited they're able to put together something fun for the kids at camp, and it's something they think the kids will look forward to going to.
Well, and they mentioned that, it's kind of different from their field trips right now of it maybe being an hour versus being a whole day. And they talked really about their nature conservation side of things. Why are field trips like this so important for the kids?
I think it's good to get the kids out and doing something different. I think Camp Leif Erikson, it's fun, it's inviting, it's something where they can learn a lot. But at the same time, I think it's good to just maybe change things up a little bit. And I think that's what the field trips to the zoo will do. They get to interact with animals that they're obviously not going to be able to get to interact to at camp.
Perfect. And finally, how can people or kids sign up for this? Obviously parents, because kids can't sign themselves up. How do they get involved signing up, that type of thing?
Yeah, there's a website that's linked in our story on KELOLAND.com. So if you go to the story, click on that link and you'll find ways to register with your kiddos. I will also add that, and you saw in the story, that only kids age 6 through 9 will get to go to the zoo. They felt like that was the age group that was the best suited for this. So, but if you're interested in camps, go to the story on KELOLAND.com.
Perfect. Well, thank you so much for joining us, Jordan. Really appreciate it. And folks, I'm going to pull up a QR code right now. Scan this QR code and it's going to take you to KELOLAND.com. Just like Jordan mentioned, you can find his story, sign your kids up. All right, and that is all the time we have for Inside the Newsroom today. Make sure to catch us every weekday at 1 and 3 p.m. Central Time right here on KELOLAND Plus. Until next time, I'm Joey Taylor. Have a great day, everyone.